Welcome. So our practice today, as usual, will be a mix of practices. I have placed a block here. The block I will use as a sitting support as well as potentially a lying support. So perhaps if you have one, put that to the side of the mat. I've got a blanket sitting there just simply for comfort. That could also be a sitting support or a source of warmth, perhaps. So I would love to begin our practice this morning in a seated position. Hence, I will grab the block. It is up to you. An easy pose is actually preferred if it comes easy to you. And what does that mean? That you sit and then have one leg in front of the other. Sometimes people are crossing the ankles. I find it easier when the ankles aren't crossed and the legs are just in front of each other, making it a little bit easier to potentially move as well. So your choice, perhaps this kneeling position, maybe with your knees a bit wider today, or your easy pose, one leg in front of the other and the knees rolling out to the sides. Let us begin with the hands resting down onto your thighs or even your knees. You can choose to close your eyes if you feel comfortable with the idea. And then perhaps starting to circle your upper body. And perhaps just feeling into the movement, noticing your little quirks, challenges, and happy spots. With that, we're trying to warm up a bit into the spine, the hip area, the shoulders perhaps. And then let's take a deep breath in, lifting the arms all the way up. On your out breath, let your hands come to rest against the body or the floor and enter a twist. Leave the twist easy, your spine long, your shoulders relaxed, and perhaps on the out breath going a bit deeper. With the inhalation, then centering the upper body, lifting the arms again. And on your out breath, return and to a twist, but to the other side, hands again resting wherever you can reach comfortably. Let shoulders soften, breath flow easy. And perhaps on the next out breath, twisting a bit more. On your next inhale, center your torso, lifting your arms back up overhead. On the out breath, circle the arms out to the sides and place your fingertips gently down behind you. You can already lean a little bit in towards the fingertips, especially if you're sitting on a block, that might be useful. And then perhaps beginning to lift through your sternum, your chest, and squeezing your shoulder blades together behind your back. So coming into a light back bend. If your neck is happy, push the chin forward and then guide the head back. Only an option, we're opening also into the throat area. And perhaps a full deep breath here. Then another inhale. And as you breathe out, start to relax your lower back and begin to come off your fingertips, returning into an easy seated position. As you sit here now, circling the other way around, you can determine this other way by circling without thinking about it and then turning in the other direction. You might have your eyes closed again and really be present in the movement. What do you need from that circular movement? And can you get there? All of our movements right now are helping us to find a better seat. And as you next take an inhale, lifting your arms back up. And with the out breath, releasing your arms. As you turn the palms of your hands upward, resting the hands down, shoulders shrugging back easily. And you could keep your eyes open for our mudra today. I won't mirror it. It is the right hand lifting Your elbow is bent and the palm of the hand is showing forward like so. Your left hand is resting on the back of it against your thigh or knee. The palm of the hand is facing up and this arm could be softly extended. You have your mudra. You might choose to close your eyes. Just simply holding the gesture. Abhaya mudra is taken from the Buddhist tradition. It symbolizes fearlessness. And that is what we're working with today, our fears. While you might think that fears are naturally strong fears, yes, that is right, but also adding perhaps that fear is a worry, and fear is also stress in our modern times. So noticing perhaps what type of fear applies to your life right now. This gesture here with open hands is encouraging peace and calm. The stop sign that we're almost making when we take that out of a Western culture, it is representing stop right here. This is to keep these fears and stresses out of our life. Receiving peace and calm in the other hand. Sit here and begin to deepen your breath, holding your mudra, aware of eventual sensations, feelings that might arise as you breathe more deeply. We'll keep this gesture and its meaning in mind. And while you take your next breath in, release your mudra and stretch your arms back up. On the out breath then, releasing the hands, palms facing down onto your legs or thighs. If you're in an easy pose, I suggest to change the leg in front. If you're seated like myself, you can stay right here. Taking a deep breath in as you lift gently through your heart. And then with the out breath, letting your hands slide forward. As you might come into a soft forward bend, your legs could still be falling out to the sides. You might, like myself, still sit semi on a block. As you fold forward, you can choose your arm support, if any at all. Maybe it is the head resting to the floor. You could also choose to remove a block from underneath. Sitting towards your heels and perhaps moving the pelvis here a little bit from side to side. We will change our position and come to lie down on our backs. So for the next out breath, uncurl towards the seat. Then maybe extend your legs out in front, flexing perhaps through the feet. Placing either your fingertips down or your flat hands by the sides of your hips. Grounding down through the hands. Engaged in the legs, the toes pointing upwards, staff pose, Dandasana. Fully supported. If you like, you can use your arms as you start to round the spine and roll down onto your back. While I will allow you to do that, lying down on your backs. And perhaps placing with bent knees your feet down onto the floor. Feel free to use your blanket as a thin cushioning underneath the head, a head support. Let your arms just loosely fall out towards your sides. And start a full yogi or ujjayi breath, beginning to breathe towards your abdomen, your lower ribs, to your collarbones, and out from the belly to the ribs, to the collarbones. Each breath flowing in this pattern now, and maybe allowing yourself to add the ujjayi technique if that is within your practice. A light constriction in the back of the throat, causing an oceanic sound focal point, and a tool to deepen the breathing. As you find your new breathing pattern, leaving your breathing pattern the way it is now, and on each inhalation starting to turn the head to one side, and on the exhalation centering the head again, breathing in, turning the head to the opposite side, and out as you center it again. Let your breath flow in this way for a little bit, turning the head from side to side using the pace of your breathing, and leaving your head heavy. There's no need to adjust the head by lifting it. Just let it be heavy against your support and rolling the head basically from side to side. Finding then your head back in the center. If you're still comfortable this way, stay exactly as you are. And while you breathe in, make soft fists with both of your hands. And when you're breathing out, relax the fists or even stretch open into fingers and palms of hands. When breathing in, making soft fists. And when breathing out, extending into the hands, even the palms. Let that flow, the fists and the stretch of the fingers with your breath. And for your next out breath, the option of bringing your arms up over the body, maybe touching palms, even forearms, and lifting your head. For the inhale, making soft fists, opening your arms, lying back down. For the out breath, joining the palms, even the forearms perhaps, and maybe lifting the head. For the inhale, open the arms, soft fists. For the out breath, the option of lifting and touching. Repeating that same movement once again. When you come to return to the mat, you have your soft fists, and then relaxing the hands on the out breath. Keeping your arms and upper body restful, keep your breath flowing in that same length, and begin to roll the knees to the side on an inhale and center them, same as the head on the exhale. Changing sides on the next in-breath and centering again on the out-breath. Repeating that sideways movement of your knees with your breath for a little while. If this movement feels good, you might add the same rolling of the head. Try not to strain or stress your body. And with that, choosing the side that you might turn the head towards. Perhaps you even keep it looking upwards, depending on how it feels for your body. While I always encourage you to explore, and with that, to even explore your fears within this practice, you might still have times where you notice that is not right for you. And that is a time where we listen to that inner voice. When you are in balance now, left and right side, center yourself again. Turn the palms of your hands once you're in the center to touch the floor, and bringing your arms a bit closer down by your sides for support. For your knees are bent, the feet might be, so are your knees in that case about hip distance apart. Flexing your right foot by leaving the heel on the ground. And in breath as you slide the leg out long without moving the rest of your body much. Then point the foot, and while you breathe out, slide the foot back onto the ground. Same leg, flexing the foot, a breath in to extend the leg out slowly. Pointing, and a breath out as you draw the foot back onto the ground. Your upper body is resting comfortably here, and we'll repeat one more time. Right leg slowly extending on the in-breath. The foot points, and on the out-breath, stepping the foot to the ground. Take a breath, doing nothing but observing yourself. One leg might be slightly different to the other, and hands will repeat that on the other side, flexing your left foot, leaving the heel on the ground. Stability in the body as you breathe in, the leg slides out long over the mat. Then point the foot, and on your out breath, drawing the leg back in towards you. 2 more rounds here on the left, a flexion and an in-breath to extend the leg out. Do so very slowly and try to minimize other movement in the body as you point and breathe out, drawing the foot back in. Last round of this kind on your left. Inhaling, extending, and exhaling to draw in. Taking this couple of your deep breaths to assess. And you can then choose to repeat just as it was, or add a hug of the knees. So flexing into the right foot. On the inhale, extending the leg out over the mat or slightly above. Pointing the foot, and while you breathe out, slide the leg back, but then give it the knee a hug and use your hands to draw the knee towards the chest. Let's flex the right foot, arms back by the side, and an in-breath, extending the leg just above the ground or over the mat. Same stability there. Point the foot. And as you breathe out, bringing the leg back in, your option, a squeeze of the knee to the chest. Let's do that again. Flexing arms, supporting by the sides, and in-breath as the leg extends out. Pointing, and an out-breath to draw the knee in towards the chest. Releasing your foot to the ground, lengthening your arms down by your sides. Try to remember to breathe deliberately in between. And then changing sides with the left foot flexing and in-breath to extend the leg out slowly. Pointing the foot, and with the out-breath drawing the foot in, maybe even hugging the knee with your hands into the chest. Let's flex the foot, extending the leg out just above or on the ground. Pointing the foot and the out-breath as you draw in, perhaps a hug and a squeeze of the knee. Last round on this side, exactly the same as you're extending your leg out. Pointing the foot, and on the out-breath, drawing the knee back in towards the chest. Stepping your foot down onto the ground again. Let your arms relax for a moment. Breathing in and out of your nostrils, feeling belly rising, ribs expanding, and then all of that contracting lightly when you breathe out. As you might choose on your next inhalation, letting your knees roll over towards your right hand side. Arms might open away, perhaps even to almost shoulder height, leaving your shoulders grounded with your knees over on that side. Take a breath in as you lift your arms up. Then bring the hands down on the side of your body. And as you breathe out, swipe down the side of the body and down towards your groin. With your in-breath, reach your arms out and then up to the ceiling. On the out-breath, let the hands swipe back down and in towards the groin. We'll do that one more time. A breath in as you reach your arms out, then up and gently swiping down toward your groin area. Letting your arms open again as you breathe in like the pages of a book. With the out breath guiding your knees in towards the center, and you might need little adjustments here of your position on the mat, coming back to your starting point. Leaving your breath flowing fully. As you next inhale, let your knees roll over to the right-hand side. Arms open, almost shoulder height, just a little bit below, shoulders dropping towards the ground. While you breathe in, reach out and then up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, swipe down with flat hands, the side and in towards your groin. A breath in to open the arms and reach them up towards the ceiling. And out breath for that gentle touch and movement of limb. One more breath to open and reach up. One last gentle touch of the body. Letting your arms then open again. And on and out breath, bringing your knees back to center. Perhaps wiggling yourself back into your perfect position, lying down on the floor. Your choice is now to give both knees a hug or leave yourself just as you are. If you choose to hug the knees, you might end up rocking from side to side, then eventually forward and back if that's your choice. And if your feet are just on the ground, you might tuck your chin in and start to roll up with your inner strength. I'd ask those of you who'd hug their knees into the chest to also join us in a seated position. You might give your legs a good hug and lengthen through the spine. And if you are sitting in an easy pose, I'd encourage you to come to your less comfortable version of the easy pose. I'll personally go back into my seat on the block with the knees bent. With ourselves back in a seat, perhaps the odd leg in front, you didn't spend that much time in this variation. Let the shoulders soften back, let your sitting bones ground. And we will take a deep breath to lift the arms back up. Only this time, we bring them down through the midline and returning to our fearless mudra. The right hand shining forward, the left palm shining upwards. Abhaya mudra. As it does help us to instill a sense of peace, let's chant one universal sound of Om, followed by 3 shantis for peace. Breathing in together for the Om now. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. As you rest here in your gesture, where is it that you are inviting more peace to in your life? When do you need to stop worrying and de-stress in your practice on the mat? Perhaps having that as an intention moving forward. And with the inhale, lifting both arms up again. With the exhale, bringing the hands down onto the ground, removing any potential seated support and landing now on the hands and the knees in an all-four stance. Grounding as usual through either widespread hands or fists with thumbs pointing forward, the knees hip distance apart. Find some strength down through the shins and the tops of the feet as well. And begin by tucking your right toes under. And just like we extended the leg out long, do so over the mat, extending the leg backwards, leaving the rest of your body reasonably still. Once leg is extended, take a breath in and lift it off the floor. And with the out breath, then drawing your knee and nose together and rounding your spine. Flex the foot again as you breathe in and lengthen forward right through the neck, the leg, the back. And on the out breath, draw the knee back in. We'll repeat that one more time. A breath in to extend our bodies. And with the out breath, drawing the knee in towards the chest, and you may step the foot forward, help it or wiggle it into place. So you've got your knee over your ankle joint, your hip over your knee joint. For the inhale, then let your upper body completely collapse. And use the foundation of your legs and breathe out to uncurl. Raising the arms up on the in-breath. And then making cactus arms on your out-breath. Both palms are now shining forward. And I know this is a sign to stop our fears and worries and stresses. It is also a very open gesture in general to receive. And you might squeeze your shoulder blades down the spine and maybe lifting your gaze, almost spreading out into the fingers and the palms of the hands. A breath in to raise the arms. A breath out to bring the hands down onto the mat. Taking your knee back into position. Placing hands and knees back into their posture of all fours. Again, encourage the feet, the shins, the hands into the mat. Tucking your left toes under this time. Try and stay stable in the body while you breathe in and extend the left leg. Then lifting the leg up just as it is. And for the out breath, draw the knee and the nose together, rounding your spine. Flex the foot again, reach forward into ground, back to the heel. And exhale as you curl it under. One more round, extending back and forward into the back. And on the out breath, draw the knee under. Same here, you can help or step the foot forward between the hands. Take time to wiggle your knee over your ankle, your hip over your knee joint. Then take a breath in and let your upper body surrender. Using your legs as you breathe out to uncurl the spine. Lifting your arms up as you take a breath in. And returning back to cactus arms. As you stand here in your kneeling lunge, leave the palms of your hands open rather than letting your fingers curl in and checking with the energy and how that changes. You might then choose to squeeze your shoulder blades down the spine, lift your heart, and maybe your gaze rolls up to deep openness through the front of the body. We'll take a breath in. And with the exhale, this time release the hands down as well. But tuck your back toes under, lift the knee and step your foot down to the front of the mat into a standing forward bend. Taking an inhale here, fingers might press against shins for a half lift as your spine straightens out. And with the exhale, soften the knees and bow back down. As you stay in your forward bend, inhale. And then with your out breath, beginning to uncurl the spine, rising here into a standing position. Give the shoulders a gentle lift And then a soft shrugging down. As we come to land in our mountain pose, you might like your palms to face forward, your feet to be aligned, the outer edges of the feet parallel, and gently squeezing your inner heels together. The inner heels are helping us to stand strong without locking. Your breath still be flowing to belly, ribs, and collarbones, in and out of your nose. Maybe it is still an ujjayi breath. Shifting weight lightly to the left. On the inhale, lifting the right knee and your arms. On the exhale, bring the hands to the hip and step the foot back. Warrior One stands. We're taking the foot out to hip distance, then grounding it in a deep angle, then bending lightly into the front knee. Why do we have the hands on the hips? To feel that the hips are still facing forward. If you adjusted your hips, let them fall back into place and adjust your stance to bring the hips to face forward. You could then choose to take a deep breath and lift both arms up. Warrior One. As you breathe out, you might bend your elbows and return to cactus arms. For your in-breath, making soft fists with your hands. For the out-breath, roll the shoulders and arms forward. Touch the backs of your hands and look down. For the inhale, soft fists and cactus arms, opening heart and gaze. For your out-breath, roll the shoulders forward, backs of the hands touching round the spine and looking down. Use the front foot. We'll go again. Breath in to open. Breath out to round forward. 2 more here. Your pace of breathing. As you next inhale, push the back heel off the floor, reach your arms up. Step the back foot out a little more and let your arms extend out towards shoulder height, if that's available for both. Warrior Two. Now your feet are in line with each other. You're squeezing the feet inward lightly again. And you might pay a bit of attention to the placement of the front knee, that aligning over your ankle joints, and perhaps your gazing point rests over just the front hand fingertips. Virabhadrasana 2. We will take a breath in, lifting the back heel and the arms are coming up. You can bring your hands down and slide the back foot in. Taking your back foot and turning with the knee bent, your knee out towards the side. If this feels okay for you, you could also choose to place the foot below the knee or help it to your upper inner thigh. Last variation, you'll press your inner thigh and foot together. For all variations, let's lift out of the standing leg by grounding through the foot, reaching into the length of the body. You might then join the palms of your hands to touch. Perhaps you stay here. Maybe you're lifting the arms. And you could even open your arms if that's nicer for the shoulders into branches. Keep standing strong on your standing leg, lifting upwards. And if you were so clever to have your gaze on the floor for better stability, if you like to challenge yourself, start to lift the gaze straight in front. For some, maybe even upward. Let's take an inhale, lift the arms and the knee, and out breath to land in a mountain pose. Outer edges of feet parallel, heels drawing in, palms might be forward. And we're reclaiming the breath, belly, ribs to collarbones. Let's take a breath in, lifting the arms, and the left knee comes up. On the out breath, the hands land at the hip and the foot steps out to hip distance, where you ground the foot down in an angle, bending the front knee lightly, and the same here. Try to adjust the hips facing forward with adjusting your stance, and then squeeze your feet gently toward each other for stability. Option here to raise the arms, Viravan, and perhaps bending the elbows to cactus arms when you breathe out. Soft fists on the next inhale. And if the movement is okay, roll the shoulders forward, touch the backs of the hands, round the spine and look down. And for the in-breaths, opening again to cactus arms, soft fists, hard gaze might lift. And on the out-breath, roll it back forward. The same movement as on the other side, repeating here for 3 more breaths. Using this beautiful long breath that we've been taking with us throughout the practice. When you completed your rounds, we'll meet again in our cactus arm position. Taking a deep breath to lift the heel and the arms. Stepping the foot a little back and opening the hips while extending your arms out to shoulder height, bending in towards the front knee. Leave your arms out shoulder height if that's okay for you. Your drishti forward over the fingertips and the feet drawing inwards gently again to support. Warrior 2. Arms resting out, shoulders are soft. As you take a lift of your back heel, drawing the back foot in with you. And while you bend the knee, let the knee open out to the side. Same options here. You can rest your foot against the foot or the ankle. You might guide the foot up or help it to your inner thigh. If your inner thigh, again, create the pressure between the inner thigh and the sole of the foot. And for all, we ground actively through the standing leg as if it could grow out through the crown of the head. You found your position, steady gaze, hands might touch in front of heart. Your choice to rest your arms here, extend them to the ceiling, or open them out into branches. Assessing your gazing point for yourself. Sometimes when we balance and are not really finding that balance, we become worried. So take a note of your worries when it comes to balancing. What are you comfortable with? Where are you tickling that little fear point, maybe by lifting your gaze? Taking an inhale to lift the knee and your arms, and releasing your foot down as well as your arms along the side of the body, coming back to a mountain pose. You might allow eyes to close or steady again, drawing your inner heels toward each other and returning to the simple flow of a deep, full yogi breath. With your next inhalation, then let your arms reach back up. Drawing your hands with palms touching down the midline, soften your knees and extend into a forward fold. You can always use a block in front of you in those forward bends, especially if your fingertips aren't quite reaching the ground. Keeping your outer edges parallel, shift the weight slightly towards the balls of the feet or your toes. And no matter where your hands are resting down, give the shoulders a gentle lift into the shoulder socket. And you might find that the energy is changing across your back. Keeping that light lift of the shoulder blades, your gaze could be back to the space between the knees. Perhaps lengthening the out breath now. One more breath. Taking a half lift when you come to your next inhalation, extending legs and spine. With the out breath, placing your knees back down as we return into a seated position. Now, before I'd ask you to actually be comfortable in that seat, please contemplate if you've got a wall or something like that, closed cupboard, anything near you that you might be able to use when we place legs up the wall. If not, I've got options for you to play with. That's okay too. Just making sure you're all in a good pose. Then come to sit as normal on your mat and extending your legs out long in front. Basically, we're repeating our forward fold. You might have a little blanket to pop underneath, or maybe you roll up the end of your mat. Then place your fingertips down on either side of you, similar to the staff pose or Dandasana. Bend both of your knees and point your toes upwards. Then use your fingertips and take a breath in to lift up through the spine, the crown of the head, shoulders are easy. And you might walk out your sitting bones by shifting just a few times from side to side, landing them in a comfortable position. You might notice that your belly is now longing for your thighs, and you might continue that walk or just lean your belly towards the thighs, your choice. When you found your belly aligning with your thighs, lower your gaze slightly, perhaps looking towards your toes. Take another deep breath and stretch the spine forward and up, and then a breath out as you might surrender into this seated forward bend. Keeping your feet in a flexion, the knees could straighten out, but be mindful here of any sensations around your lower back. If there's a pinch here, please bend the knees again. You get similar benefits. We all have a different skeleton, different range of movement. So perhaps your concern of inflexibility, if you have any, is very unreasonable, because it's not reality. It is just your body in this moment. Every other body in this moment feels very differently. So surrender to what you have right now. Let your out breath soften you towards the posture. With your next breath in, wave your spine back to that halfway pose, how we entered the shape, and then perhaps walking or sliding your hands back so you can rise to a seat. You might now even lengthen your legs out. So if, like myself, you have a closed door, a wall, or anything near you that can support you, you might use that today. I will come off my blanket, but I really like my blanket. So I will place it onto the mat where potentially my head and shoulders are landing. I flatten it out a little bit more so that the head isn't tilting. I will also take my block and have that by the side of my wall or barn door. in reach for us to practice. If you do not have that wall, I'd encourage you to lie down on your back, have the same items there, the blanket for the same reason. If you are practicing against the wall, shove your hip on the side onto the wall. I really can't lie down on my back currently, but I trust that you can. So to lie down, roll towards your back and swing your legs up so that they are resting up against the wall. If you don't use the wall, you come to lie down on your back with your knees bent. Those of you resting against the wall with their legs up, if you are resting on the ground, your feet are down, hip distance apart and landed onto the mat. You're on the wall, bend your knees too, and place your feet down onto the wall. With your feet up on the wall or your feet down on the floor, we're starting to roll our spine up and down if that feels right. So for the in-breath, starting to lift your hips and spine off the ground. And for the out-breath, rolling it down. Only difference between you guys is that some of you have your feet up on the wall, hip distance apart, and others on the floor. As you roll down on the exhale and lift up on the inhale for a few rounds. Just rolling your spine up and down, getting a bit deeper into that movement. Please make sure no matter whether feet are on the wall or on the floor, that they are hip distance apart. You might need that support to feel quite stable around your pelvis, and that then translates into the spine itself. Maybe one more round. And instead of holding, I suggest if you're on the mat, draw that block underneath you. If you've got the legs up, roll the whole back down onto the floor. So you can, of course, on the wall also draw a block underneath you. I just think for this particular movement now, it might be more pleasant without. If you choose on the mat and you're lying down, not to lift your legs, I would choose to keep the block out from underneath too. What I'd ask you to do is bring knees to bend, let them roll out to the sides and touching the soles of the feet together. You can do that lying on your back. You can also do that with the feet against the wall and your knees spreading out, letting yourself come to rest in Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle version. Taking a deep, full breath in. And let a soft sigh escape that might open your legs. Let your knees roll out just a little bit further. Your option here is to stay. If you choose to, and the same applies here for anyone not using the wall, you could separate your feet and open your legs out in a V shape. Against the wall, your heels will stay on the wall as you let your legs roll out as far as comfortable. On your back, that's easy enough. You might choose, however, to place your hands on the outer thighs to support the shape. If there's a concern that your legs are a little bit too challenged dropping out, so give them that little hold onto on the outside of your legs. Some of you might want to go and encourage the openness. You would place your hands to your inner thighs and encourage a further opening. Your choice, letting your upper body rest. And the legs become quite open. A dragonfly against the wall. There's nothing that I could say to draw you out of this shape. If it is very comfortable for you, you may as well stay. If you prefer Pavita Karani, which means the legs up the wall pose, you could take your legs and guide them back together. With your legs then coming a bit closer, You might still be resting on your back, both legs extended either against the wall and comfortably resting there. And this would be a point now, if your legs are up the wall, if you like the support underneath, to bend the knees one more time. Lift your hips up enough so you can slide the block underneath, then come to rest. And those of you on the floor without the wall, you might have your legs a little bit closer now too. Let them point up and release a bit of the stress of this opening, stretching, and at the same time strengthening hold of the wider legs. Perhaps as you rest now, legs closer, knees softer, coming to feel again into the support that you have underneath you. Keeping your breath flowing within your attention. Breath rising, breath falling. And although this is the most comfortable inversion I can ever think of, it might challenge you as you are upside down. Perhaps it's sometimes a feeling like our world is turned upside down. Here we have an opportunity to practice seeing the world from that different perspective in a very safe and caring way for ourselves. Perhaps a posture to take with you into your week. Whenever you feel asmita, that unnecessary fear or stress. If you find these legs up the wall, and I would insist here on those of you resting their legs up on a surface, and that surface could now also be a couch with your knees bent. If you're lying free on the floor, please let your knees bend again in towards the chest. And you would do the same if you don't want to stay in legs up the wall pose. Please bend your knees in towards the chest as well. Roll gently over onto your favorite side from there. And you can even leave your eyes closed if that's all right. And extend yourself out onto the mat, rolling perhaps even onto your back, setting up for Shavasana or your resting pose, which could be your legs extended, the feet rolling out to the sides. Or it could be with your knees bent over a bolster, knees bent completely, feet out wide, and knees then touching together. Constructive rest would be a good alternative for those feeling challenged in the back pelvic area. As you find your spot on the mat, keeping yourself warm, cushioned, and restful. Taking a note that your breath is still comfortably flowing in and out of your nostrils. And please feel free to return to this breath anytime. Anytime you might even feel uncomfortable with thoughts arising, guide yourself back to this breath. When you reflect back on your practice, did you worry? Was there a slight stressor? Or were you perfectly able to breathe calmly throughout the whole session, even throughout a balance? What we learn here on the mat is crucial for leading a healthy life. It not only provides our body with necessary movement, but it can also teach us more about ourselves. Those fears and worries, these stresses in our daily lives, are much better managed when we practice on the mat. The strength, the stability, the action of a warrior pose, Shavasana. Indulge in this pause for a little while. If the breath comforts you, follow with your mind the breath as it flows. Notice when the mind wanders, and give yourself permission to guide your mind back at any time that it wanders, and we notice. Reflecting perhaps onto the open palms. The way we occasionally place them in Abhaya Mudra, where we were signaling almost a stop sign. This showing of the hand being empty, inviting friendship and peace. Stopping the pressures of the outside world from entering the mind. While these gestures work on those subtle levels of our awareness, we can learn how to manage these thoughts, worries, and stresses. Perhaps it is the surrender to the universe that we practice each time we come into this pose of relaxation that can truly guide us to peace. Trusting that the flow of your breath continues, even if you're unaware. Making yourself aware of your breath again and beginning to deepen. With fresh prana, life force, moving through the body, begin to move your body, perhaps even stretching out long. You could then choose to roll back onto your side, and you might choose a different side just for your personal interest. And then rising to join me in a seated pose. I'd like to come back into Abhaya Mudra with the left palm facing up, resting towards your thigh or knee. The right arm bending and the palm showing forward by the side of your shoulder. You might choose to close your eyes, sit tall, rest in your mudra. We'll come back to the chant of one universal sound of Om, followed by 3 shantis for peace. We'll take a breath in for the Om first. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Drawing the palms of the hands together, if that feels right, in front of your heart. And sharing the peace created with a light bow with each other. Namaste.